So what is color contrast? Well, color contrast is what it sounds like. It's two colors that contrast each other. And what makes them contrast? Well, if we looked at hue, saturation, and luminance, hue, the way we described it, was basically picking a color on the color wheel. Well, color contrast is two colors on that color wheel that are opposite of each other. You could have red and blue color contrast, teal and orange. You could even have color contrast with colors closer to each other on the color wheel, like pink and blue. Or yellow and green. And there's a reason why a lot of movies we see today on the big screen have that sort of bigger budget look. You know, there's so much that ties into it, obviously money and big actors, but from just a diluted sort of just looking at it from a cine standpoint, what really makes those images stand out is the use of color contrast. Color contrast not only in the lighting, but also stems to the wardrobe, to the way the sets are designed, painting a wall a contrasting color than the skin tones and putting a wardrobe color on, like for instance, my warm shirt against this blue, that's not by accident. These are just decisions you can make, not only as a cinematographer, but as, collectively with your other department heads to achieve this look. And this look can be done, in many ways, as we've mentioned, by having warm and cool sources in the frame. This can be done by having colors opposite of each other in the color wheel that are playing on your set. Just having contrasting colors just makes your images really stand out. Teal and orange. I'm sure you've probably heard the phrase tossed around when talking about color contrast. So what is teal and orange? Well, if you look at a color wheel, skin tones are in the orange part of the color wheel, and directly across from orange is teal or cyan. And that's why you see this look has become quite popular in movies today, because if you think about it, all movies have actors, and all actors have skin tones that fall in the orange part of the color wheel. So all the filmmakers are doing is they're taking the opposite color of those skin tones and injecting it into the lighting and the wardrobe and the set design. And that's really it. I mean, there's not much to it. It's just really thinking through, from a design standpoint, how you can contrast the skin tones, which is orange, by putting cyan or teal, elsewhere. An example of color contrast used in music videos. Jake and I did a video for this artist, Mike Taylor, and the song's called Electric Church. And one of the performance shots, we took Kino tubes, before Asteras, and wrapped them in steel green. And then we also took a source off frame, a sky panel, matched its hue and saturation to steel green as well, and that sort of ended up keying him. So the foreground was all lit with this sort of cooler tone, and then we raked the back wall with the Source 4 Lico with like a Lee Yellow 101. And if you don't want to remember these gel names, all that you need to take away from this is the cool foreground key and the background hit with hard light, that was yellow. And in this instance, we had a warm and cool, and it really made this image stand out. Because if you were to sort of make everything the same color, it almost starts to feel monochromatic. And in an odd way, when you're lighting with color, the last thing you want to do is make it feel monochromatic, because when you think of that, you think of black and white, So being able to separate colors and have them contrast each other is an easy way for your color to feel more vibrant and bold. And color contrast doesn't always have to be extreme colors. Don't think it always has to be a party red or a party blue. Color contrast can be used in much more subtle ways too. One of my favorite things to do when shooting narrative projects is balance my camera at 4500 Kelvin. What this does is it makes your 3200 Kelvin sources appear warmer, and it makes your 5600 Kelvin sources feel cooler. It's a nice split right down the middle. And here's an example, say you're lighting a night interior scene, characters inside of a house at nighttime. And if your lighting design involves a 5600 Kelvin source, maybe you're motivating moonlight, for instance, and say you had a few lamps in your frame, which are balanced at 3200 Kelvin, you basically have warm and cool in the same frame. So keep that in mind. Color contrast can be as simple as light sources at the opposite ends of the Kelvin scale contrasting each other.